The day had dragged on like a stubborn child refusing to go to bed. My name is Annie, and at 27, I was already feeling the weight of adulthood pressing down on my shoulders. I worked as a marketing executive for a small company in the city, and today had been particularly grueling. I had arrived at the office with a to-do list that seemed to grow longer with every email I opened. By the time I finally clocked out, the sun was already setting, casting a warm orange glow over the horizon. As I pulled into my driveway, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. My little house, one of the quaint, cozy ones in our small neighborhood, was a comforting sight. I had moved here just a few months ago, hoping for a fresh start, a quieter life away from the chaotic hustle of the city. The quaintness of my surroundings, with their white picket fences and blooming gardens, was a stark contrast to the high-rise buildings I had grown accustomed to. Once inside, I kicked off my shoes and let out a sigh. The silence enveloped me like a warm blanket. I had a few chores to do, but all I wanted was to unwind. I made my way to the kitchen, poured myself a generous glass of red wine, and sank into the soft embrace of my couch. The rich aroma of the wine mingled with the faint scent of the vanilla candle flickering on the coffee table, creating a relaxing ambience. I closed my eyes, letting the stresses of the day dissipate with each sip. My mind wandered to Ron, my neighbor from 2 doors down. We had exchanged pleasantries a few times, and he had helped me carry some heavy boxes when I first moved in. He was charming and had a disarming smile that made my heart flutter, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a while. I often caught myself daydreaming about him, but I didn't know if he felt the same way. After finishing my glass, I decided to indulge myself further. I filled the jacuzzi with warm water, added a few bath bombs, and lit some candles to create a serene atmosphere. The soft glow of the flames flickering against the bathroom walls made the space feel intimate and inviting. I climbed into the bubbling water, allowing my muscles to relax and the warmth to envelop me. I closed my eyes and let out a contented sigh, feeling the stress of the day melt away. Just as I was starting to feel truly relaxed, I heard the bathroom door creak open. My heart jumped into my throat. What the hell? I gasped, water splashing around me as I sat up straight, suddenly aware of my vulnerable state. My eyes widened in shock when I saw Ron standing there, his mouth agape. "Oh my God, Ron! What are you doing?" I screamed, instinctively trying to cover myself, even though I was mostly submerged in the water. He raised his hands defensively, a look of shock on his face. "Annie! I'm sorry. I thought you weren't home." The door was open, and I just wanted to check if everything was all right. "I didn't know you were in here." His voice was a mixture of panic and embarrassment. I couldn't process what was happening. My heart raced, and I felt a flush creep up my cheeks, not just from the heat of the water but from sheer mortification. "You can't just walk into someone's house like that," I shouted, the adrenaline coursing through me. He took a step back, glancing around the room as if he were trying to find a way to escape the awkward situation. "I know. I'm so sorry. I saw the door open, and I thought something might be wrong," he stammered, his cheeks reddening. For a moment, we just stood there, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I could see his eyes darting toward the water, and despite my embarrassment, there was something electrifying about the situation. You should probably leave," I said, still trying to gather my composure. But instead of turning to leave, he hesitated. "Annie, I've liked you since you moved in. I didn't want to intrude, but I've been hoping to get to know you better." His confession hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. My breath caught in my throat. Had I heard him correctly? Was he really admitting he liked me? The wine coursing through my veins made me bold, and I found myself blurting out, "You could join me in the jacuzzi." His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought he might decline. But then a slow smile spread across his face. "Really? You mean it?" "Yeah," I said, suddenly feeling a rush of confidence. "But you have to promise to keep your eyes to yourself," I added with a teasing smile, hoping to break the tension. "I can't make any promises," he replied, the mischief dancing in his eyes as he slowly approached the jacuzzi. He removed his shirt, revealing a toned torso that made my heart race all over again. I quickly looked away, trying to keep my composure. As he stepped into the bubbling water, the heat enveloped him, and I could see the tension in his shoulders ease. "This is nice," he said, looking around. "I should have known you had something this luxurious." "I thought it might help me unwind after a long day," I said, my voice softer now. "What about you? Do you often just barge into neighbors' homes?" He chuckled, the sound low and warm. "Only when I see an open door." "I promise I won't make a habit of it," he said, giving me a serious look. "But I'm really glad I did tonight." We chatted casually, the initial shock of his unexpected arrival fading away. As the warmth of the water enveloped us, the atmosphere shifted from awkwardness to something more relaxed. The candles flickered softly, casting playful shadows against the walls. "I've seen you around, you know," he said, leaning back against the edge of the jacuzzi. "I always thought you seemed so focused. Like you have your life all together." "Ha! If only you knew," I said, laughing lightly. "I've been so stressed with work lately, and I thought this would be a good way to escape for a bit." "I get it. Work can be brutal," he replied, his expression softening. "But you deserve some time for yourself, too." "Thanks, Ron. That means a lot," I said, meeting his gaze. There was something in his eyes, a sincerity that made my heart flutter. As the minutes passed, we continued to talk, sharing little bits about our lives. I learned that Ron worked as a software developer and had a passion for hiking and the outdoors, while I shared my love for painting and traveling. The conversation flowed effortlessly, the initial shock of our unexpected encounter fading like the bubbles in the jacuzzi. At one point, he leaned a little closer, and the air felt charged with unspoken words. "I've thought about asking you out," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart raced at his admission. "Really? I mean, I didn't know you felt that way." "Yeah, I guess I was just waiting for the right moment." "But this is a bit unexpected," he said, his eyes locking onto mine. "I don't mind the unexpected," I replied, feeling emboldened. "But I can't believe you walked in on me like this. It's kind of hilarious, in a way." He laughed, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Well, if you can laugh about it, then maybe it wasn't such a bad thing after all." As the conversation continued, I felt the barriers between us begin to crumble. I was surprised at how easily we connected, as if we had known each other for years. He had a way of making me feel at ease, and the tension from earlier melted away. Suddenly, a loud crash came from outside, breaking the moment. We both turned our heads in unison, startled. "What was that?" I asked, my heart racing again, but this time from surprise. "I don't know. It sounded like it came from the backyard," Ron replied, standing up slightly to peek out the terrace windows. "Do you want me to check it out?" Yeah, I guess so," I said, feeling a twinge of unease. Ron climbed out of the jacuzzi, water dripping from his body, and I tried my best not to stare. He threw on a towel and stepped outside, leaving me to gather my thoughts. The sudden interruption had pulled me from the comfortable haze of our earlier conversation. I could hear him walking around, checking the corners of the yard. I wrapped a towel around myself, feeling exposed and vulnerable, not just because of the bath but because of the unexpected connection we were building. My mind raced with thoughts about how quickly the evening had escalated. Would he really ask me out? Did I want him to? He returned moments later, a look of amusement on his face. "It was just a branch falling. I think it's a little windy outside," he said, shaking his head with a chuckle. I laughed nervously. "You had me worried for a second." "Sorry about that," he replied, his smile fading slightly. "But I can't help but think how surreal this all is." "What do you mean?" I asked, curious. I've liked you for a while now. And now I'm here, in your bathroom, after accidentally walking in on you. It's like something out of a movie," he said, his expression serious. "Yeah, a rom-com gone wrong," I quipped, but deep down, I felt the weight of his words. He moved closer again, the air thick with anticipation. "Annie, I really do want to get to know you better. Can I take you out sometime? Like, on a real date?" I hesitated for a moment, caught off guard. I'd like that, I said, the words tumbling out before I could overthink them. But can we agree to never have another entrance like this? Deal, he said, grinning widely. As we settled back into the jacuzzi, the previous tension had transformed into something more profound. We laughed and joked, the initial shock of the evening forgotten. The water bubbles danced around us, and I couldn't help but notice how the candles flickered, creating a warm, intimate glow. So, what's your idea of a perfect date? I asked, genuinely curious. He thought for a moment, his brow furrowing. I'd say something simple, maybe a hike followed by a picnic. Just the two of us, away from everything else. That sounds amazing. I love the outdoors. I exclaimed, excitement bubbling within me. I haven't had a good hike in ages. Well, I'll have to change that, he replied, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Just then, I realized how close we were sitting. The water sloshed gently between us, and I could feel the warmth radiating off his skin. My heart raced, but it wasn't from embarrassment anymore. It was from something deeper, a thrill that coursed through my veins. You know, I said, biting my lip, this has been a really unexpected night. I didn't think I'd be sharing a jacuzzi with my neighbor, let alone having such a deep conversation. Ron chuckled, his gaze never leaving mine. Neither did I, but I'm not complaining. The laughter faded, and for a moment, we simply looked at each other, the air charged with unspoken possibilities. I could feel a magnetic pull, urging me to bridge the gap between us. And just as I leaned in slightly, Ron reached out, tucking a strand of wet hair behind my ear. Annie, he whispered, his voice low and earnest, there's something special about you. Really? You don't just say that to all your neighbors? I teased, trying to lighten the mood, but my heart was pounding in my chest. Only the ones I actually like, he replied, his eyes serious now. Just then, another loud crash came from outside, jolting us both. I squeaked in surprise, my heart racing. Ron chuckled, breaking the tension. I swear, I'm not a stalker who just barges into people's houses. I promise this is not a regular thing for me. Right, I laughed, the momentary scare dissipating into a warm glow. We spent the next hour in a comfortable silence, sipping wine and soaking in the warm water. The unexpected connection felt like a fresh breath of air. I had gone from a stressful day at work to sharing a moment with a man I had secretly admired. Annie? Ron's voice broke the tranquility. Yeah? I replied, looking over at him. I hope this doesn't come off too strong, but I really want to see where this goes. I don't want this night to just be a one-off thing, he said, his tone serious but hopeful. My heart swelled at his words. I feel the same way, I confessed. I didn't know how to say it, but I've liked you since I moved in. I just didn't know if you felt the same. He smiled, the kind of smile that made my heart flutter. Then let's make it official, shall we? I nodded, feeling a rush of excitement. Yes, let's do that. As we exchanged playful glances, I felt a sense of warmth envelop me, not just from the jacuzzi but from the connection we were building. We were on the cusp of something beautiful, and it all started with an unexpected intrusion. Just then, I noticed Ron's expression shift slightly, and before I could ask what was wrong, he leaned in closer. Annie, can I kiss you? My breath caught in my throat. Yes, I whispered, my heart racing as he closed the distance between us. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if we were both testing the waters. But soon, it deepened, igniting something within me I hadn't felt in years. The warmth of the water and the flickering candlelight surrounded us, wrapping us in a cocoon of newfound intimacy. As we pulled away, I could see the spark in Ron's eyes, one that mirrored my own feelings. Wow, he said, breathless. I didn't expect that. Neither did I admitted, feeling a mix of exhilaration and vulnerability. But I'm glad it happened. Me too, he replied, his gaze steady and sincere. This night turned out to be one for the books. Definitely, I agreed, my heart swelling with happiness. But just as I was about to say something more, a loud, frantic knock echoed through the bathroom door. Annie! Are you in there? It was Sarah, another neighbor and a friend I had met since moving in. Her voice was laced with concern. Just a minute. I called back, my face turning crimson as I shot Ron a panicked look. What do we do? He whispered, half laughing, half worried. Just act natural, I said, trying to suppress a giggle. I'm not sure how natural this is, he replied, gesturing to the jacuzzi, the water swirling around us like a tempest of chaos. Annie! I swear, if you don't answer, I'm coming in. Sarah's voice was insistent, and I felt a rush of panic. Okay. I called back, looking at Ron, who wore an amused expression. Just stay quiet. I hastily climbed out of the jacuzzi and wrapped myself in a towel. I'll handle this, I whispered to Ron, who nodded, clearly still trying to hold back laughter. I opened the door slightly, peering out at Sarah, who looked both relieved and confused. Hey! I was just checking in. I saw the lights on and heard some commotion. Yeah, everything's fine. Just taking a bath, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Her brow furrowed as she glanced over my shoulder. Are you sure? It sounds like you're having a party in here? I felt a heat rise to my cheeks. No, just me. Really? Just relaxing after a long day. Sarah narrowed her eyes, clearly not convinced. You sure? I thought I heard a guy's voice. I held my breath, hoping Ron wouldn't accidentally speak up. Nope, just me. I insisted, forcing a smile. I'll catch you later. All right, if you say so, she said, still looking suspicious. But you better invite me next time. Once the door was closed, I let out a sigh of relief. That was close. Ron burst into laughter, the sound echoing through the bathroom. You handled that like a pro. I didn't know what else to say. I mean, how do you explain this? I gestured between us, my heart racing. Maybe we should have planned an exit strategy, he joked, leaning back against the edge of the jacuzzi. Next time, we definitely will, I replied, laughing along with him. As the laughter subsided, I felt a sense of ease wash over me again. So, what now? I asked, settling back into the warmth of the water, the soft flicker of candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. Well, he said, his expression turning serious again. I think we should definitely go on that hike and see where things go. I mean, tonight has been amazing, but I'd love to take you out properly. I'd like that, I said, my heart swelling at the thought. But let's hope for fewer interruptions next time. Agreed, he chuckled. I'll make sure to pick a nice secluded spot for our picnic. We continued to talk, sharing more of ourselves and our dreams for the future. I couldn't help but feel grateful for that unexpected night and the twists it had taken. What started as a typical evening had turned into something far more meaningful. So, what do you do when you're not breaking into my bathroom? I asked playfully, raising an eyebrow. He grinned, and I could see a spark in his eyes. I'm a graphic designer. I work from home, mostly. And you? I work in marketing. It's hectic but exciting. Sometimes, I said, my voice trailing off. I didn't want to dwell on my stressful job right now. Tonight was about new possibilities. Sounds like we're both kind of in the same boat, he replied, his tone thoughtful. Creative fields can be tough. But they can also lead to amazing things. Yes. And you know, that's why I love hiking. It helps me clear my mind and get inspiration. It's like a reset button, I said, excitement bubbling inside me. Ron nodded, leaning back against the edge of the jacuzzi, his gaze fixed on me. We should definitely do that together. Nature always brings clarity. After a while, I felt my eyelids growing heavy, a comfortable tiredness settling in. I should probably get some rest, I said, stifling a yawn. This day has taken a lot out of me. Yeah, me too, Ron replied, but he didn't make any move to leave. Instead, he leaned closer, the warmth between us palpable. But before I go, can I just say thank you? For inviting me in. This has been a night I'll never forget. Same here, I said, my voice softening. I never expected to feel this way so quickly, but I'm glad you walked in on me. It feels right. He smiled, and for a moment, it felt as though the world outside faded away. I'll see you soon, then, he said, finally standing up and wrapping a towel around himself. Good night, Ron, I replied, feeling a sense of contentment wash over me. As he made his way to the door, I felt a mix of excitement and anticipation for what was to come. I had stepped into this night feeling worn out and drained, but I was now brimming with hope and possibilities. As I settled back into the water, the warmth enveloped me, but it was the memory of Ron's smile and our shared moments that truly kept me warm. I had no idea what the future held for us, but I knew one thing for sure: sometimes the unexpected moments in life lead to the most beautiful beginnings. And just like that, a night that started with a stressful day and an embarrassing intrusion transformed into the spark of something new and thrilling. With my heart racing in anticipation, I closed my eyes and smiled, ready to embrace whatever adventure awaited me next. The next morning, I awoke to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. My heart fluttered at the thought of Ron and our unexpected connection. I couldn't help but smile as I recalled the warmth of our laughter and the intimacy we had shared. I slipped out of bed, my mind racing with possibilities as I prepared for the day ahead. After a quick breakfast, I decided to text Ron. I wanted to keep the momentum going. Hey! Last night was incredible. Can't wait for our hike. The response came almost instantly. Absolutely. I've been thinking about it all morning. Let's do it this weekend? Sounds perfect. Just let me know the details. As I set my phone down, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. It had been ages since I felt this way about someone. My mind wandered to the possibilities: a hike, a picnic, and maybe even a budding romance. I couldn't remember the last time I felt this alive. The weekend arrived sooner than I anticipated, and I found myself standing in front of my closet, debating what to wear for our hike. It felt almost surreal that I was preparing to go on a date with Ron. I finally settled on a pair of comfortable leggings and a fitted tank top, throwing on a light jacket just in case the weather turned cool. I arrived at the trailhead, my heart pounding in anticipation. Ron was already there, leaning against his car with a warm smile that made my stomach flutter. Hey, you made it, he called out, waving enthusiastically. Wouldn't miss it for the world. I replied, returning his smile. We exchanged small talk as we started the hike, the sun shining brightly and a gentle breeze rustling the leaves around us. Everything felt perfect, and I couldn't help but steal glances at him as we walked. He looked so at ease, his hair tousled by the wind, a light sheen of sweat on his forehead. So, do you come here often? I joked, mimicking a line from a cheesy movie. He laughed, shaking his head. Only when I need to escape reality for a bit. I couldn't agree more. The further we hiked, the more the stress of my daily life melted away. We climbed higher, chatting about everything from our favorite movies to our dreams for the future. I felt a connection with him that I hadn't experienced in a long time. As we reached a clearing with a breathtaking view of the valley below, I stopped to catch my breath. The sight was stunning, and I could feel my heart swell with appreciation for this moment. Wow, I breathed, taking in the view. This is incredible. Ron stepped beside me, and I could feel his warmth radiating as he stood close. It really is. Moments like this make everything worthwhile, don't you think? Absolutely, I replied, glancing at him. It's so easy to get caught up in the daily grind. But being here reminds me of what's really important. We stood in silence, soaking in the beauty around us. And in that quiet moment, I felt something shift between us. The air felt electric, charged with unspoken words and possibilities. Annie, Ron said softly, breaking the stillness. I know it's only been a short time since we met, but I feel a real connection with you. I haven't felt this way in a long time. My heart raced at his words. I feel it too, Ron. It's refreshing to meet someone who understands. He turned to face me fully, his expression serious. I just want to be honest about my intentions. I'm looking for something real, something meaningful. My breath caught in my throat. So am I. I've been so focused on work and other things, I didn't realize how much I was missing. I want to explore this. His eyes lit up, and he smiled. Great. Let's take it one step at a time. We continued our hike and eventually found a perfect spot to lay out our picnic. The sun was high in the sky, and we settled down on a blanket, unpacking the food Ron had prepared. I hope you like sandwiches and fruit, he said, looking slightly nervous. I love it. It's perfect, I assured him, feeling a warm flutter in my chest. We ate, laughing and sharing stories, the comfort between us growing. I could see the genuine interest in his eyes, and I felt myself opening up more than I ever thought possible. But just as the mood felt perfect, I received a text from my work. It was a message about an upcoming project that required my immediate attention. Ugh, can't believe they're texting me now, I said, my smile fading as I read the message. I thought I had the weekend off. Ron noticed the shift in my demeanor. Everything okay? Yeah, it's just work stuff, I said, forcing a smile. I'll deal with it later. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't convinced. Annie, if it's bothering you, it's okay to take a moment to handle it. I sighed, knowing he was right. I stepped away to take the call, my heart heavy with the tension of balancing my responsibilities and this blossoming connection with Ron. Annie, we need you on this project, my manager's voice came through the line, filled with urgency. Can you come in tomorrow? We need your expertise. Tomorrow? I echoed, feeling frustration build inside me. I had plans. I understand, but this is important. We're counting on you, he insisted. Fine, I'll be there, I said, hanging up the phone with a heavy sigh. When I returned to Ron, I could see the concern etched on his face. Everything all right? He asked, his voice low. Yeah, just work wanting me to come in tomorrow. They're really pushing for this project, I replied, trying to maintain a calm facade. That's tough, he said, reaching for my hand. But you shouldn't have to sacrifice your personal time for it. I smiled weakly, grateful for his support. I know, but I feel responsible. I've worked hard to get to this point. I get that. But don't forget to take care of yourself too, he said, squeezing my hand gently. As we packed up the picnic, I felt a lingering tension. I loved that I had met someone like Ron, but I was also aware of the challenges I faced in balancing my work and personal life. The rest of the hike passed in a blur of laughter and easy conversation, but the weight of my responsibilities hung over me like a cloud. When we returned to the car, Ron turned to me, a frown etched on his face. Annie, I can see that something's bothering you. Is it the job? It's just, I hesitated, unsure of how to express my feelings. I feel torn between my career and this connection we have. Hey, he said softly, placing his hands on my shoulders. You don't have to figure everything out right now. Just know that I'm here. I want to support you. Thank you, I said, my voice cracking. It just feels overwhelming sometimes. Let's take it one day at a time. Enjoy the moments we have together without the pressure of what's next, he suggested. I nodded, appreciating his perspective. You're right. I just need to focus on the now. As we drove back to our neighborhood, I felt the tension begin to ease. Maybe I didn't have to have it all figured out immediately. Perhaps all I needed was to allow myself to feel and embrace what was happening between us. When we arrived back at my house, I hesitated before getting out of the car. Would you like to come in for a bit? I asked, feeling a mix of hope and uncertainty. I'd love to, he replied, flashing me that warm smile that sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach. As we stepped inside, I felt a sense of familiarity and comfort. The candle from the previous night still flickered on the counter, a remnant of the warmth we had shared. We settled onto the couch, and I poured us each a glass of wine. As the soft music played in the background, I felt the weight of the world lift just a little. We talked about everything and nothing, the conversation flowing easily between us. But the earlier phone call still lingered in my mind, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the stress of work would eventually come crashing back. As we shared stories and laughter, my phone buzzed again, interrupting the moment. I glanced at the screen and saw my manager's name. Sorry, I have to take this, I said, feeling a pit form in my stomach. Ron nodded, his expression turning serious. Take your time. I stepped into the kitchen, my heart racing as I answered the call. Hello? Annie, we need you in the office tonight. This is urgent, my manager said without preamble. Tonight? But I have plans. I protested. I understand, but this is crucial. You'll need to bring the new presentation for the board meeting tomorrow, he insisted. Fine, I said, exasperated. I'll be there. When I returned to the living room, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. Ron was waiting, a worried look on his face. What happened? He asked gently. They want me to come in tonight, I said, my voice heavy with frustration. It's important. He frowned, clearly concerned. Are you okay with that? I don't want you to feel like you have to choose. It's just work, Ron. I'll handle it, I said, trying to reassure both of us. But inside, I felt a storm brewing. The pressure to succeed in my career was suffocating, and I was terrified of what it meant for my budding relationship with Ron. I gathered my things, feeling the disappointment wash over me as I prepared to leave. Ron stood beside me, his expression soft but firm. Annie, I don't want you to feel like you have to go, he said, concern etched on his face. I can't just ignore my responsibilities. This is my career, I said, trying to sound resolute, but my voice trembled. He stepped closer, taking my hands in his. I get that. But remember, you're not alone in this. I want to support you, not compete with your job. I know, but it feels like I'm always choosing work over everything else, I admitted, my voice cracking. Then maybe it's time to reassess what you really want, he suggested, his gaze piercing into mine. I felt a knot form in my stomach as I processed his words. What do you mean? I just mean that if this job is taking away from your happiness, you might need to consider if it's worth it. Life is too short to feel this stressed all the time, he said, his tone serious. His words hit hard. I had been so focused on climbing the corporate ladder that I hadn't considered the toll it was taking on my mental health and my relationships. But I can't just quit. I've worked too hard, I countered, my heart racing. I'm not saying to quit. Just think about what you really want, Annie, he said softly. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes as I looked at him. You make it sound so easy. It's not easy. But you deserve to be happy. If I'm going to be part of your life, I want you to be your best self, he said, his voice gentle but firm. I took a deep breath, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of it all. I don't want to lose you, Ron. You're not going to lose me, he reassured me. But you need to take care of yourself first. I nodded, feeling the tears threaten to spill over. I just wish I knew what to do. You don't have to have all the answers right now, he said, pulling me into an embrace. Just promise me you'll think about it. I promise, I whispered, feeling the warmth of his support envelop me. But deep down, I was scared. Scared of making the wrong choices, scared of losing everything I had worked for. I arrived at the office, the familiar tension creeping back in. My manager greeted me with a stern look. You're late, he snapped. Sorry, I had plans, I replied, frustration bubbling to the surface. Plans don't matter when deadlines are on the line, he said sharply. I felt a surge of anger. I can't keep sacrificing my personal life for this job. He paused, taken aback by my sudden outburst. What did you say? I said I can't keep doing this. I need to find a balance, I declared, feeling a newfound sense of clarity. Annie, you need to understand that this is a competitive field. If you want to succeed, you need to make sacrifices, he replied, his voice cold. I took a deep breath, realizing I had reached my breaking point. And what if those sacrifices cost me my happiness? Think carefully about your career, he warned, crossing his arms. If you can't commit, maybe this isn't the right place for you. I stared at him, the weight of his words sinking in. In that moment, I knew I had to make a choice, continue down this path or take a leap of faith into the unknown. After hours of working late into the night, I finally wrapped up the presentation. But as I stared at my computer screen, I felt a sense of emptiness wash over me. This job had become a heavy burden, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I grabbed my things and headed home, feeling the weight of my decision settle in. I knew I needed to have a serious conversation with Ron, and it was time to be honest about what I wanted. When I arrived at my house, I found Ron waiting for me, his expression a mix of concern and relief. "I was worried when you didn't text back," he said, wrapping his arms around me. "I'm sorry," I murmured, feeling overwhelmed by emotions. I had a lot on my mind. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked gently. I nodded, leading him to the couch. As I sat down, I took a deep breath. "I realized something today," I began, my voice shaky. "I don't want to keep sacrificing my happiness for this job. It's not worth it." Ron's eyes widened, and I could see a flicker of hope in his gaze. "So, what are you saying?" "I think it's time for me to reassess my priorities. I want to focus on what truly matters, including us," I said, my heart racing. He smiled, and I could see the relief washing over him. "That's great, Annie. It takes a lot of courage to make that choice. I just hope it doesn't mean losing everything I've built," I said, the worry creeping back in. "It doesn't have to. You can still pursue your career while finding balance. Just remember, you don't have to do it alone," he replied, taking my hand. In that moment, I felt a rush of clarity. I didn't have to have everything figured out, and I didn't have to face it all alone. Over the next few weeks, I started to make changes. I spoke with my manager about my workload and the need for more balance. To my surprise, he was receptive and agreed to adjust my responsibilities. With each small victory, I felt the weight lifting, and my connection with Ron deepened. We spent more time together, exploring new trails and sharing dreams for the future. Each moment felt precious, and I found myself cherishing our time more than ever. One evening, as we sat by a bonfire at a beach, I turned to him, the firelight dancing in his eyes. "I'm so grateful for you, Ron. You've helped me see things differently." "I just want you to be happy," he said, his voice soft. "You deserve to find joy in everything you do." As the waves crashed against the shore, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. I had finally begun to embrace the balance I had longed for, and it felt liberating. But just as I began to settle into this new routine, my old job sent a new project my way, one that required a significant amount of time and energy. I found myself at a crossroads again, torn between the comfort of my new life and the pressure of my old responsibilities. Ron noticed the change in me, and one evening, he sat me down. "Annie, you seem stressed again. What's going on?" "I got assigned a big project, and I don't know how to manage it with everything else," I confessed, feeling the weight of it all settle back in. "Do you want to take it on?" he asked, his tone serious. "I don't know," I admitted. "It feels like a step backward." "Then maybe you should reconsider it. You've worked hard to find balance. Don't let it slip away," he advised. "I just don't want to let anyone down," I said, fear creeping back in. "Annie, you can't be everything to everyone. You have to prioritize yourself," he said firmly. His words resonated deep within me. I realized that I couldn't let my career define my worth. "I think you're right," I said slowly. "I need to set boundaries." "That's the spirit," he encouraged, his smile brightening the room. The next day, I made the call to my manager, declining the project. It was a risk, but as I hung up the phone, I felt a surge of relief wash over me. I had finally chosen myself. That evening, I celebrated my decision with Ron. We sat under the stars, our fingers intertwined, and I felt a sense of calm enveloping me. "Are you feeling better?" he asked, his voice warm. "I really am," I replied, looking into his eyes. "Thank you for being my anchor through all of this." "I'll always be here," he promised. As we gazed up at the stars, I knew this was just the beginning. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that I had the support of someone who truly understood me. And in that moment, surrounded by the warmth of friendship and love, I realized that the journey ahead was filled with infinite possibilities. Whatever the future held, I was ready to face it, together with Ron, and with a newfound clarity about my path.